Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our channel. My name is Salma. I'm a mom of 6 children, and here on this channel we talk about parenting kids and teaching them Hifdh and teaching them Quran and building healthier families, inshallah. I don't really have an agenda with this channel in terms of, topics and content I want to prepare. I want it to come organically and talk, I want to talk about topics that sort of are relevant to my life, and I'm hoping to yours as well. I want to keep it real and address topics that are really, relevant to the Muslim family. So this morning as I was driving, I was thinking, how many people actually don't have a vision for their family. I work with a lot of moms, and, we talk about, a lot of times, what is your plan or what are your goals? And often it comes to, I get to see that a lot of people get married and a lot of people start families without having any idea what kind of life they want to pursue. So I want to talk about 3 tips today, or 3 questions or 3 ideas that are going to help you define your family vision. And so while I'm talking about it here, I want you to kind of have this vibe of, we're just sisters having coffee together and bringing up these topics, right? But I'm hoping these topics will also inspire you to have these conversations in your own homes, with your spouses, with your children, if you have older children, even if you have younger kids, you can include them. It seems to me that a lot of times men are talking with men and women are talking to women, but we're not having family discussions, right? We're not bringing up issues, we're not having these conversations within our families. So I'm hoping this channel will give some ideas on what to talk about and how you can change these kind of things. So I want to talk about 3 things. I think, when we come from a Muslim perspective, we want to build healthy families. We know the families are important. We know that marriage is important. And so we leave it at that, right? It's like, okay, we got married, we're going to have kids. That's about it, right? And so number 1 tip is to be intentional. So whatever you want to do with your family, to really kind of check back in frequently and just to kind of see for yourself, what are my intentions here? Where am I going with this? Like, what's the plan here? What is going on with my career? If you're a man or a woman, do I want to pursue a career? Do I want to stay at home? How many children do we want to have? How are we going to raise these kids? Do we have an idea which direction this is going to go? And, I happen to help a lot of moms, when I talk about them, about the marriage meeting process or these kind of things. And then they tell me, well, they didn't discuss any of that, Okay, he came with a good job and she looked pretty and that was about it, right? And so we need to kind of make sure we're on the same page and that we have that same intentionality coming into the marriage, right? And to keep that to keep that idea of being intentional in your marriage, right? And so you keep thinking in every part of your life. If you've just had a baby, you check your intentions. Okay, what am I going to do here? Am I going to breastfeed? What's the point here? How long am I going to breastfeed? How is this bringing me to some higher goal? This is the right of the child. Okay, so I'm going to make that a priority. This is, an Islamic obligation almost, right? So I'm going to focus on the breastfeeding, and then I'm not going to stress out if something else is not being done because I'm doing a good job over here, right? So you're going to check each of the things that you're doing. So if it comes to teaching your kids the Quran, that's quite important, right? But maybe pushing for Hifdh is not, right? Because Hifdh is not an obligation. Not everybody has to memorize the Quran, right? So then maybe you can ease into these kind of things. So you want to keep checking your intentions, and you want to be intentional about what kind of plan you have here for your family. How many kids do you want to have? Oh, how many kids would you like to have? And again, Allah is the one who decrees, but we are the ones who are sort of tying the camel, right, before we rely on Allah. So we have to kind of make a plan. How would you like to raise those kids? Do you want to put them in a daycare? Do you want to get a nanny? Do you want family help? Do you want, the grandma to watch the kids? Do you want to be a stay-at-home mom? How much is the dad going to be involved? Can he financially support or this kind of thing? So these kind of things, not just practical, but also philosophical kind of discussions. How do you feel about beating children? How do you feel about, physically punishing them? Do you believe in punishments and rewards? And if you don't have an idea, well, educate yourself about these kind of things. Like, prepare yourself. I'm a midwife professionally, although I haven't worked in many years, because I'm staying home intentionally with my children. And part of the discussion is always, very interesting to me, when I meet moms, who have given birth and they have done zero preparation for the birth, right? They have no idea. They haven't done any childbirth education. They haven't taken a class for breastfeeding. They haven't arranged any postpartum help. They haven't even considered maybe getting a lactation consultant. Now, I'm not saying this to blame them, but I'm just saying the lack of preparation is astounding, right? And so particularly for Muslim moms who are giving birth, being familiar with the, woman's health is paramount. It's really important, right? So number one, what is your vision for your family? Be intentional, okay? So whatever it is that you do in your family, and we're not going to go into details, it could be many different things, and this is up for your family to decide, but be intentional about it, right? Tip number two is, for every healthy relationship, it requires that we have two healthy, functioning adults that are participating in this relationship, right? And we're talking about the marriage here. So in order to have a healthy relationship, you need to have two healthy, functioning adults. And when I say here two healthy, functioning adults, I mean physically healthy, mentally healthy, and functioning, meaning one is not dragging the other one down, right? And so in order to build a healthy Muslim family, you have to be healthy and your spouse has to be healthy. And this is now, of course, sounds like obvious, right? But if we have certain issues that are holding us back, if we have certain mental issues that are holding us back, if we have certain psychological issues that are holding us back, even if we have certain physical issues that are holding us back, these are the kind of things that we have to deal with, right? And in order to build a healthy family, we cannot just kind of ignore these issues, right? And this is what I often see happening, that somebody is struggling in the marriage and then the other side takes on the role of the savior and the carrier of the relationship, and it becomes very imbalanced and codependent and not very healthy, right? And so for best benefit for a healthy Muslim family, we need to have a healthy Muslim mom and a healthy Muslim dad. And so if we notice, some dysfunction in the relationship, if we notice that the communication is not going so well, if we notice that, there are certain issues that keep coming up, we need to solve these issues, so we can have a healthy Muslim family. So to have a healthy Muslim vision, how this relationship is going to go, you need to have this growth mindset that you're going to continue to build your marriage, that you're going to continue to address issues as they come up. Now, no one can predict future. Like, we don't know. We all go into marriages, with the best of hopes, but sometimes issues happen, right? And then maybe there's anger issues, maybe there is addiction issues, maybe there's all kinds of stuff that happens to humans, right? And so when two humans meet in a marriage, they have to have at least this growth mindset of trying to say to each other, okay, we've got issues, now let's try to fix it and let's be on the same team. So let's be on the same team. A lot of the Muslim discourse nowadays is just focuses on women's right and women, and then men, just, oh, women are no good and all these kind of things. And we're pitting one gender against the other, whereas we should be on the same team. We are from one another and we need to help each other raise good, healthy Muslim families, right? And so number 2 point is to have two healthy, functioning adults in a relationship. And if one is not functioning so well, or the other, or both, to have this growth mindset and to have this mindset of like, okay, let's work on this together, because it's not going to get any better if we don't do anything about it, right? And so a lot of times when I counsel moms, they come to me and they say, well, we're stuck here, we're stuck there, but nobody else is wanting to change anything, right? They've been just enmeshed in these generational patterns. And sometimes, it takes, a courageous person to say like, okay, let's try something new here. Let's try to fix this. Let's, build towards our healthy Muslim family. And that's your Muslim vision. What is your vision for your family? Is it just to raise kids who graduated from college, who have a good job, and that's about it? Or do you want something more? Do you want, to have that lasting sadaqah jariyah? Do you want to have a child who's going to be making dua for you? Do you want to have grandchildren who are going to think back of you and say, hey, Allahumma barik, this was a great grandma or great grandpa, and they set that foundation for our family. So we have to think long term, not just immediate future, but like rather our lasting legacy, right? And so if you think of that lasting legacy, it's not going to be done without any work, right? Like if you want to build a great building, that's going to take some effort, right? And let alone a family, right? And so really work on these kind of interpersonal relationships and have that mindset, like, how can I be better? How can I heal? How can I figure things out? And take it seriously. Take it seriously, almost like a job. Like, okay, I'm going to be a Muslim father and a husband how can I do this? Or I'm going to be a Muslim mom. And I didn't know any of this when I first started out. And so, but I took it to heart. Whatever I didn't know, I tried to learn to the best of my ability, right? I tried to find books and people and communities and lectures and, you know, to expose yourself to all these kind of things. But for that, you need to have a growth mindset. You need to have this idea that you need to, you know, that you can change and that you can get better over time, and not just like accept, oh yeah, well, that's just how it is and there's nothing that can be done about that, right? Number 3, and that's the last point for today, in order how to build a vision for your Muslim family, is to honor the generations that came before you. Okay. Now, there's a lot of talk nowadays about generational trauma and about all the things our parents must have done wrong, or our ancestors, and all these kind of things. And a lot of it, it's true. A lot of it's, you know, we have damage coming, you know, from our childhoods, if we were emotionally neglected, if we were physically abused. And it's really hard to kind of put that forward, you know, if you want to make a change in your own family. Maybe sometimes we envision, you know, our vision will include be totally different than our parents, right? Maybe that will be on your list, you know. But I think it's also important to honor how far we have come, because the fact that you're here and the fact that you're even considering how to raise your next generation means you have already done well, right? Like you already have come a long way. And that means that your ancestors or your grandparents or your parents, they have done something to enable you to do this, right? And so there's different ways we can think of this way. Maybe your parents were first generation immigrants or second generation immigrants, right? Maybe they left their home country in, you know, difficult circumstances, and they struggled in the West to raise you, and maybe you didn't feel, you know, like they understood, but that was a sacrifice that enabled you to be here where you are today, right? And so I want you to think of this as honoring the good parts and healing the bad parts, right? And so as you're moving into the next stage of raising your own family, you have to come to terms with what came, you know, as part of your upbringing. So I'm a first generation practicing Muslim. Well, I wouldn't say first generation. I would say maybe after a break, after a cut in practicing Islam. My parents grew up during communism in ex-Yugoslavia, right? And so the religion wasn't that part of their lives. So yes, so in that sense, I am the first generation practicing Muslim, you know, in my family. But now it's on me to kind of see what was good that came in my family from both sides, you know, my family's from the side from my dad and the side from my mom. What is it that I want to take forward with me, and what are the parts that I need to heal, and how can I honor this journey? How can I honor what my parents have done for me? And I think honor is maybe a better word than respect. You know, we respect our parents, but I think respect is kind of worn out and people have a hard time with it. I think honor is a much better word, you know, that we just kind of honor all the good things that have happened, and then we can kind of move on and we can continue on building that road, right? And so the fact, for example, that my parents chose not to use any physical punishment when they were using, you know, when they were raising me, made it much easier for me to embark upon the, you know, journey of gentle parenting, because I was never hit as a child. So it totally made sense to me that, you know, I'm not going to hit my children. Now that doesn't see, you know, so you understand like how every step was a step in the right direction. Maybe if our parents didn't do 100%, you know, well by us the way we were expecting it, they have done something that enabled us to be in this position nowadays where we can make better choices. And so think of it as a multi-generational path. Your children will hopefully, inshallah, be better than you. And so they will challenge you in these kind of ways, and you are setting that foundation, you know, for the future generations as well. And so I think it's very encouraging to think of it this way, you know, because sometimes we kind of just look at faults and all the things that happen to us, and then we say we don't want to be like this. And there's a lot of good that came with it. And the bad parts we have to obviously, you know, face and deal with them. So particularly if you're somebody who is just starting to practice and maybe does not come from a family that taught religion. I did not grow up, you know, as a child being taught religion. So for me to teach my children Quran is a huge, it's huge step. You know, I didn't grow up, you know, with listening to the Quranic verses as a young child, right? And so I have to sort of invent this path now for my children. You know, I have to figure out how to do this, how to be this first generation. Now you might come from a different upbringing. You might come from an upbringing where you were forced to do Quran as a child, right? And so maybe you have to do some healing in regards to that before you embark upon the journey of teaching your own children Quran, right? And so I hope this makes sense, because this is a channel about teaching the kids Quran. But it's not as straightforward as people think it is, right? It's not about just like, okay, make the child a Hifdh and that's about it, right? Because the journey is quite difficult, and you have to kind of start thinking about these philosophical issues as well. So we're talking here about creating a family vision, you know, for your family, and this is going to be unique to your family because of your background, because of your upbringing. Everybody brings their story in, right? So what was your story like, and how can you honor the good parts of your story, and how can you heal from the bad parts, and how can you make a plan going forward for your children? I grew up in a family of readers. I was encouraged to read from a very, very young age. I think I was about 5 when I went to my first library and got my library card, and, you know, my parents are big readers. So that is something, you know, that I'm extremely blessed and grateful to have received in my household, and I'm passing this on to my children. Now, again, like I said, wasn't taught the Quran, I wasn't taught Islam and all these kind of things, but this is the part I'm changing, and this is the part I'm intentional about, right? And so as you're crafting your family vision, think of the ways you can honor your past and heal from it, from the bad parts, and how can you make a new plan, inshallah, for your family. So I hope this sparks some conversation within your own household. What is the vision for your family? What kind of, you know, things would you like to do and see and leave as a legacy behind, inshallah? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions and if you have any comments regarding this topic, and I'll talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.